we're going to see a few God candles come, and a lot of people will be like, okay, I'm going to get out now before the bear market hits. But then it's going to just run up like gold did, or like silver did, at least double or triple. There are definitely players that are trying to push the price down. Like, you can see it. It's very plain. We're just patiently waiting for the world to figure out what we figured out. And when they figure it out, there's not going to be a lot of Bitcoin left. I had a prediction for 2026 that Elon Musk is going to come into Bitcoin in a big way. The reason for that is because how long will the market give Saylor a discount? And that's a question mark. It doesn't matter who the Fed chair is. Government spending will go up. It will always keep going. But the biggest danger now, I think, you could view the quantum attack as an attack in and of itself, is to pressure everyone to support a rushed solution, which is actually the most dangerous thing, because you'll be regarded as a genius. Like, everyone that holds here or buys here even are going to be very well off in the coming years.
So much of what people are focused on, or like the mass distraction, confusion, has the promise of Bitcoin changed at all? And what is going on in the world? I would love the download from Samson's brain right now.
Well, there's a lot going on, as you said, Brandon. Like, every few days, it seems like something is happening. And, what's the saying? Like, sometimes decades happen in months and months happen in decades or whatever. But that's exactly what it feels like now. Like, we're getting decades of things happening in like a few months. A decade is in years, I think, as the saying goes. But yeah, the world is very tumultuous right now, and people are worried about a multitude of things. Like, it feels like everything is breaking down. And I think the rise of precious metals is the best indicator of that. Of course, they've cooled off now, but you have to look at the high level picture, which is people are fleeing to what they perceive to be hard assets, reliable, hard, sound assets. Now, do they have the understanding that you or I have about Bitcoin? Maybe not, but they will learn. And I think it's just cyclical. It's the concept of eternal September, where you have the new crop of students and they have to learn everything again. So all the metal investors are going to learn, guess what? Metals are not that great, actually. And maybe there's something else. And maybe that something else is Bitcoin. Because I don't know if you saw, but in China, there was a gold trading platform that just blew up, like multi-billion-dollar loss. And they just froze everyone out because they didn't have the gold that the people were trading. And they said something like, we'll reimburse you 20%. And I think that definitely has an impact on what happened with the metals. But this is just the problem with precious metals. You cannot trade in size at spot markets, right? Even if you can trade at spot markets, you're taking a discount. Like, I know a lot of Bitcoiners that came into Bitcoin through the precious metal journey. And what they learned was, when they buy, it's easy to buy. You can even buy at Costco. When you want to sell, you're going to have a hard time finding someone to take your shipment, and you're going to take a discount on spot price to sell it back to them. And they're just going to have to learn this again. Like, why is Bitcoin the apex predator? It's because it is so liquid in every market. And it's not an exaggeration. You can sell it at any time. And that's what we see. People are using Bitcoin as that dumping ground for their fears: geopolitical uncertainty, fear of war, fear of pullbacks in their favorite stock market, like AI or whatever, or even precious metals. It is because Bitcoin is so liquid and so easy to use that it is the dumping ground for a lot of these guys when they have any fear. But going back to your original question, like, the metals are the indicator that something is happening. And if you look at that chart of the German mark against gold when it was collapsing, it's like going like this, right? That's basically what we're seeing right now. The massive run up in metals and back down. And eventually this will bleed into Bitcoin, in which I call is the great rotation. As those people start understanding that what they want is actually Bitcoin. What they're seeking as a safe haven is Bitcoin. But that is going to take a bit of time, but it will come. And there's a massive amount of capital. Like, you saw gold double its market cap. It went from 20 to 40. Silver went 3.4 times, right? So there is enough money floating out there. It's not that there's not enough paper fiat money out there. There is plenty of fiat paper money out there. And that will make its way to Bitcoin.
It's remarkable what's happening. Have you, I shouldn't say, have you ever seen in your life, but because I think I heard it was 75 years ago, I believe, that was the last time that silver and or gold had crashed like 20, 30% like that. The stable, metal, the stable money, whatever people said for thousands of years, right? And it's anything but that. I mean, you could throw the dollar in that. You could throw the bond market. We've seen that the last 5 years of just mass craziness. All these stable things. I mean, do you think that that's a good, like, as we say, like all roads lead to Bitcoin? Is that just another one of those things where, like you said, people are just going to start learning and relearning or learning these lessons of like, yeah, like you thought Bitcoin is volatile, just wait until you stay in these other US dollar denominated assets?
Pretty much. I think, again, all roads lead to Bitcoin. And it sounds cheesy, but it's true. Like, I have a friend who came into some fiat money and we were talking about it. And he's like, well, what if Bitcoin goes lower? I'm like, I don't think it'll go lower, but it can always go lower. But even if it does go lower, what would you rather? You know what Bitcoin is. He's a Bitcoiner. Like, where else would you put your money? And you have to just reason through it. Like, he can buy gold, he could buy silver, he could buy real estate, he could keep it in dollars, he could buy bonds, but realistically, he knows none of that stuff is going to perform. Even if Bitcoin is going down and it's going to be a bear market, it doesn't matter, because long term, it's going to outperform everything.
Honestly, Sam, it feels like I go back to like that MasterCard commercial from years ago, right? Like the priceless one, where it's like you have this immutable ledger that is outside the purview of everything, and it's just completely discounted by the masses. Like that blows my mind. And it's just the thing standing right there in front of everyone that no one can see.
But hindsight is always 20/20. So people will see it. They'll see it when we go back up. And this is how I think it's going to play out. We're going to see a few God candles come. We're going to jump back up to 100K. And a lot of people will be like, okay, I'm going to get out now before the bear market hits, because they believe in the 4-year cycle, or they believe the bear is saying it's going to crash. And then once they exit, then it's going to just run up like gold did, or like silver did, at least double or triple. And then they're going to regret it, and they're going to buy back in.
And this is, just so people know, this is the chart that Samson was referencing of the Weimar hyperinflation, where the gold price in the mark was just going berserk up and down. So it's wild where we are right now, and probably where we're headed. Like, what are your thoughts short term? Like, could you see us going down to 50s and then created like a launch pad and just took off?
It would surprise me. I think this is already very low. Like, in my view, is unbelievable. That's like dropping to 15K, because a lot of the TA guys, or even the people that believe in the 4-year cycle, it's like they just have this belief in their head without any substantiation to it. Like, the market structure of Bitcoin is fundamentally, markedly different today than 4 years ago and the 4-year period before that. But even that aside, like, just because you toss a coin 4 times, and I keep repeating this, and you hit heads, heads, tails, heads, it doesn't mean you're going to keep getting that sequence forever. That's not how math works. That's not how probability works. So, it's like that, throw that away. But fundamentally, the market structure of Bitcoin today is completely evolved massively from the last 4-year period, right? And I don't even think it's the 4-year periods. It was just the business cycle and amounts of money flowing in that drove Bitcoin in those cycles. But right now, today, you have institutional buyers of Bitcoin, and you have treasury companies. You have BlackRock, which is the largest asset manager on the planet, pushing their Bitcoin ETF, which is their fastest growing, most profitable, and likely biggest driver of their revenues for the next 100 years in the game. And then you have all the treasury companies. You have Strategy. They will buy at any price. And they will do that because they have their preferreds that they can use to raise capital non-dilutively to buy forever. And that's what I call the infinite bid. It's just going to buy Bitcoin forever at any price. Then you have Metaplanet, you have Strive with their, like, these are all companies that are structuring these preferreds. And guess what? There are more coming. Then you have BSTR from Atom. Then you have XXI from Tether and Jack. Like, it's not going to stop. And even if there's that joke like sailor will buy and then will dip the next day. How many days in the week are there, right? Like, eventually, there is not enough time for it to dip before the next treasury company executes their big purchase from their preferreds, right? Mm-hmm. And if you think about it too, like what would drive us lower? If you look at the past days, I think the first day, Saturday, was a mass liquidation of an Ethereum trader, like a big Ethereum trader. He blew himself up and lost $250 million, and that tanked us. And then us dragged down by the precious metals and fears in Korea. Like you said, there's so many things happening so quickly. But like that is it. Like this is forced selling. If you don't need to force sell, like let's say you're a holder of ETF, even if you're a retail holder of an ETF, and you don't need to force sell, and you've written Bitcoin off, you think, okay, I'm going to go and buy real estate, whatever you want, right? You should set a limit order or tell your broker, I want to sell at 87 because I know Sailor will buy at 87 eventually. Why would you keep selling down? And the fact is, we've been sideways, in my view, for a year, and we've had 4 clear red months. So Bitcoin has been battered. And I don't think people realize how battered we've been. Like, Bitcoin is overdue for a big move up. Even if it's just to reclaim previous ATHs, all-time highs, it is overdue for that. Because we've taken every single beating. As the metals went up, we went sideways and then down. But you know, the stock markets, traditional tech stocks have had a run. Everything has had a run except for Bitcoin. So I see this for value investors. They have to identify that the opportunity is here. You can invest in gold again, but what if that is the top for gold? You can invest in silver, but what if silver did top already, right? Bitcoin definitely has not topped. And all you need is $1 trillion of the however many 20 odd $30 trillion that came into the market for precious metals to move into Bitcoin, to rotate to Bitcoin. And you're going to blow off the last all-time high easily because you have also the treasury companies investing as well.
All right, real talk for a second. We all know health insurance is basically a fiat system of healthcare. The biggest debauchery there is. It's expensive, confusing. Somehow you still end up paying hundreds of dollars for a Band-Aid. We moved to crowd sharing almost 5 years ago. It's the best decision we ever made. Instead of sending your money to the insurance company's black hole, you join a like-minded community that directly funds each other's medical bills. Simple, transparent, way cheaper. And that difference you save, you can invest in Bitcoin. It's an amazing win-win. And look, we're part of the Bitcoin community because we believe in freedom, decentralization. Crowd Health brings that same mindset to healthcare. You choose your doctor, you pay in cash, and the community's got your back when the big bills hit. No networks, no middlemen, no bureaucrats trying to approve your care, just people helping people the way it should be. You make decisions about your health. That's as sovereign as it gets. So if you're ready to take the orange pill for your health, this open enrollment, go to Join Crowd Health to get started for $99 for your first 3 months using code Brandon at joincrowdhealth.com. That's joincrowdhealth.com, code Brandon. Crowd Health is not insurance. Opt out. Take your power back. This is how we win. Generational wealth doesn't happen by accident. Bitcoin fixed the money, but it didn't fix the system of protecting and passing it on. Bitcoiners, we have to live in 2 different worlds, idealism versus pragmatism. That's where Meanwhile comes in. It's the world's first Bitcoin-denominated life insurance company, regulated in Bermuda and built entirely by Bitcoiners for Bitcoiners. With Meanwhile, long-term holders can grow and protect their Bitcoin wealth through tax-free policy loans, no repayment obligation, no margin call risk, while making inheritance simple and secure and entirely in Bitcoin. It's about sovereignty, stewardship, and building a legacy that lasts centuries. Because if Bitcoin is forever, your plan should be too. Learn more and sign up with code 4QPBWC at meanwhile.bm. That's meanwhile.bm, code 4QPBWC, or just sign up. The link in the description below.
Because this comes up with Sailor all the time too, is, well, Sailor's going to get liquidated. You see people all over, and you're saying the opposite. Like, hey, they're set up to do this. Did he really build the flywheel? I'd love for you to unpack this for a second for people that are kind of confused at what Sailor has built in a way. Did he create his own infinite printing machine?
So it goes back to the preferreds. So it's non-dilutive. He's basically sharing Bitcoin upside with investors, and he's willing to absorb the volatility, right? He'll give you 10, 11% on STRC, and he'll take, the upside on that. And he has the war chest of cash to finance that for 2 years at least. And it's really funny, like investors, they're thinking at it from such short-term perspective. Like that seemed to satiate them, and that got STRC to 100. But what they're forgetting is like, what is in 2 years? It's the halving again. So yeah, everyone is so short-sighted, and it is really always the people that have a longer time horizon, a lower time preference, that win. And this is just repeated in history so much. Like cycles, not so much. Maybe massive cycles of like, decade-long cycles. But the cycle of people with low time preference and long time horizons winning is the cycle you want to look at, right? But he's basically created an infinite bid machine, and these machines are being replicated across the board. So they can do this forever, as long as people want 10% or 11%, and they'll just absorb all the Bitcoin. So any dip it's a discount. It's making their lives easier, and they're going to average down. So I just don't see these dips holding. And people like to say also there's going to be a 80% drawdown because it happened in the past. Like every cycle this happens, but the structure fundamentally has changed. And if you say that stuff, it does not make any sense. Like these things did not exist then, right? And people will like to say he's going to get liquidated. He's not getting liquidated, Bitcoin can drop to 20,000 and he'll still be buying.
It just feels like a lot of people, like we said, this whole thing, it was, the answer's right in front of you. No one sees it. And it's, why is that? It's because you're not paying attention. You didn't do your homework. You're willfully ignorant, or you're just frustrated because you didn't purchase it a year ago, 5 years ago, 10, 15 years ago. It's one of those things. You tell us.
Well, honestly, the unit bias is probably one of the big contributing factors to people not getting into Bitcoin.
Great point.
Like, why did silver run up more than gold? Because, I can get a whole ounce of silver. And you think that it cannot be that dumb. Like, people just think it's too expensive because one BTC is 80, 90K. But, it seems to be it. Like, people think it's so out of reach, and they don't understand that you can buy a fraction of a Bitcoin. And we, as Bitcoiners, have been repeating this ad nauseum for a decade or more. But it's something so simple that is causing people to not get into it. And this is why I think ETFs are great, because you break that unit bias. You're buying IBIT for $40-$50. So it's really funny how the world works. And if you sit down and break everything to a component level thinking, you understand like the world at large is really wrong on a lot of things, and we are right.
Do you see, and this is, again, we were talking offline about just some of like all the different political strategists and geopolitical guys and et cetera, and on and on. Everyone's got their thing, but is this David Sachs and the administration playing the stablecoin route in a bit, in the banks even, so that they can suppress price and purposely, so that they can kind of front run things and kind of load up and get ready for this new world? And not even for now, but just like, are we seeing this real system change where, like, again, the multipolar order is changing, or they want a multipolar world, an international based order is changing, and all the things we've been hearing about just in the geopolitical side? Is all this in your mind kind of playing into what you've been thinking about for a long time?
Well, there's a lot to unpack there. So let's go into first the manipulation side. I wouldn't say David Sachs is doing anything like that, but there are definitely players that are trying to push the price down. Like, you can see it. It's very plain, like the 10 a.m. dump. When the market's open, it dumps. And I did a 10 a.m. dump on a Saturday. Like, these dumps don't happen organically. Every fiduciary or every investor that is looking out for their best interest should not be market dumping, right? Like, you want to maximize your return by selling at a good price without massive slippage. So there's only three groups out there that would want to dump it. Like, either you're someone trying to suppress the price for some reason, and you're going to dump with, I would say, I don't even know if it's like traditional paper Bitcoin, like derivatives. I think it might be more malevolent, like FTX style. Some exchange doesn't have the coins and they're selling them, that style, because it's too easy to track normal paper Bitcoin. It's like the fraudulent paper Bitcoin. The second group is like people that want to push the market down because they're hedged. Like they're a trading firm and they hedged already and they want to tank Bitcoin. So they're going to, dump it and try to recover. And the third group is just traders that blow themselves up. So these are the only ones that really want Bitcoin to go down. They want to see those big red drops and instill fear in the market. But I think there is a heavy cost to that. Each one of those silos comes with a heavy cost. Obviously, the trader that blew up, that's a heavy cost on them. Yeah. But the firms that the trading firms that are trying to do this, there is a risk that it doesn't work and they're going to be sidelined because the Bitcoin bounces aggressively on the upside. And then the people that are doing it with Bitcoin that doesn't exist, obviously that's going to come to roost when there's a run on that exchange or whoever that they need to produce the coins. And that's going to send Bitcoin going back up too. So it's like not sustainable, this kind of overall suppression of the market. And fear, I don't think, is enough to push us down. Like we've seen selling. There's like, I don't fully believe in on-chain metrics, but there are some on-chain metrics of some people sell. And there's public disclosures of whale selling too. And you have to think adversarially. You cannot take it as face value. So maybe that whale that said I'm selling or sold and he made it very visible was trying to trigger a down run that he can buy back up lower, right? Because a lot of these guys are traders too. Maybe not like the guy that blew himself up on the weekend with Ethereum, but they are types of traders. But still, like that cannot happen forever because there is the buyer of last resort, there's a hodler of last resort, and there are the infinite bid treasury companies. So it has to stop eventually. Yeah, and that was you just touched on a couple of things that were some of my next questions of the whale selling, or just over the last 2 years, really, right? Since the ETFs have come in, is that in your mind, contributing to it? Obviously, like you just said, but there's got to be there's some point where, like you said, that runs out. The infinite bid kicks in, and you run out. There's only so many coins, which is, again, we don't deal with that in the fiat world where it's just infinite, so people can keep playing funny games. But at some point, people run out of Bitcoin. You can't keep doing that same thing. So that's what springboards it forward. Correct? Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I mean, the ultimate scarcity of Bitcoin, and more importantly, the verifiable scarcity of Bitcoin, is what is going to drive the price up. Silver, you don't know how much there will be, how much there is, how much is real. Silver is also a byproduct of industrial process. So you're just going to have silver popping up. Gold, it can be manufactured in fusion reactors now. They found it accidentally. They made gold by accident. And, and gold will always be produced. There is more gold that will be dug up if the market price warrants more gold being dug up, right? And you have no idea how much gold there is. So they're both defective in terms of Bitcoin. This is why Bitcoin is the apex predator of hard assets. So it's going to react eventually. The question is when. And at times like this, when people are fearful, it's difficult to see the end of the road. But we all know that Bitcoin will go up. It's just a question of when. There is no price model that predicts Bitcoin declining over time. If you look at any of the price models, Bitcoin 24 from Saylor, Plan B, Stock to Flow, and the Power Law, blah, blah, blah. Every single model predicts Bitcoin going up because it is a scarce, hard asset. And you have this new cohort of people that will bid forever and pay any price, right? Like Saylor disclosed today that they bought their last chunk at 87K. Now, if you're a disbeliever in Bitcoin, why wouldn't you just wait and set a limit order or tell your broker, I want to sell at 87? Why do you need to dump it and, sell it for cheaper? Like, don't you, if you want the fiat, don't you want more of the fiat? Right? Like, and there is a buyer. You don't need to dump it right now on the market and get less fiat if you want more fiat. It's just forced sellers right now pushing the market down. But any rational seller that does not have to sell immediately will get a bigger return in fiat terms if they don't panic sell. What else is concerning you right now you could say, it could be in the Bitcoin space or even geopolitical stuff that would obviously, could affect Bitcoin, something like that. But what have we not touched on yet that is you're keeping an eye on or is maybe concerning to you? Well, we talked about it earlier, but there is nothing that Bitcoin doesn't solve. Like, if you're worried about geopolitical instability, if you're worried about war, if you're worried about asset seizures, if you're worried about anything, you're worried about inflation, you're worried about monetary policy, you're worried about the bond market, you're worried about the stock market, you know, you want the asset that you can verify and hold for yourself. It's that simple. So there's no real reason to worry. It's just, we're just patiently waiting for the world to figure out what we figured out. But they will figure that out, because it is that simple. And when they figure it out, Bitcoin, there's not going to be a lot of Bitcoin left. Like, the last concern people had was there's not enough liquidity. And I saw that headline on some news site. I'm like, what are you talking about? There is no liquidity for sellers. Like, yes, there are sellers now, but a lot of them are forced sellers, or possibly people trying to suppress the price. But who are the big sellers? There are a lot of defined buyers out there that exist in the space simply to buy. And it's almost gamified in some way, that they're all trying to outdo each other and buy more than each other, or even buy each other and accumulate each other's Bitcoin stash. So where do you see the liquidity coming in the era of the infinite bid? That's what I want to know. Like, you're worried about liquidity, but you're worried about liquidity on the wrong end of it, because Bitcoin is finite.
So in saying that, I would imagine the viewer would probably know your thoughts on this. But one of my questions coming in was, hey, are we in for this muted volatility? And, you know, or better said, I think that question's kind of been answered, but even, you know, diminishing returns at some point in the future. And we can even extrapolate it out. Like, what's the end game to you in terms of what does Bitcoin have to account for in your mind? Is it all the assets in the world because it's money and that's what we're going to denominate all of the assets in the world in this new protocol? Or is it, hey, it's money, so it's one half of every trade in that sense, where it's 450 trillion? Like, where do you see the end game, the final resting place for Bitcoin? It could be 1,000 years from now, but you know, whatever it is, but no time frame. But where do you see that final stop at?
Well, the final stop is that everything is Bitcoin denominated. Like, every asset will be traded against Bitcoin. I think fiat currencies will fizzle out. Eventually, we'll end up trading against gold, or something like gold. Probably gold, because it has the history. But that is the market. You know, it'll be trading Bitcoin against gold and buying stuff with Bitcoin, because Bitcoin can be everything. It can be the currency and it can be the asset. Now, there are of course thinkers that only view Bitcoin as an asset. And then there's a lot of Bitcoiners that think it's money. It's supposed to be spent. The answer is it's both, because it is information, and information can serve both demands. And Bitcoin has the scaling tech, like Liquid, like Lightning, that allow it to do both things very, very well. So what you see is a unification of every single form of money and value store in the world into Bitcoin. And that's just why Bitcoin will go up forever, because that is the use case that it's absorbing. Just the real estate market alone is something to the order of $400 trillion, you know, globally. And that will be absorbed into Bitcoin. And there are only 21 million BTC. So, you know, I just don't see us holding these levels very long as soon as this starts to happen. And the frustrating thing, I believe, is we're just not seeing it. Like, we're seeing the instability, we're seeing the uncertainty, we're seeing like the comings of real estate problems through population collapse, just no demand for real estate, right? But we're not seeing the impact on Bitcoin yet. And I think it's just a matter of time. Is it a month later we'll see it move? I don't know. Is it 2? I don't know. But I definitely know it's coming soon. And again, the best indicator is precious metals.
What are your thoughts on the Clarity Act and that going, you know, getting you just, I guess, pause for now? And then Sachs came out and said, yeah, banks are going to have to comply. I mean, it looks like they're a stalemate in the sense of like the banks are like, hey, I don't want to give up this spread. And now you're trying to undercut me. And it feels like this impasse. We're like, I don't know how they get around it. However, then you have Sachs at, I think it was Davos, just saying like, yep, they're going to have to comply. So like, how do you see this playing out?
Hard to say. And this is why we're into Bitcoin, because everything else is so subjective and prone to, you know, back channel deals and other things. And it's like complexity on complexity on complexity, you know, just be the 80 IQ pleb and buy Bitcoin because it's so simple. And I have my Bitcoin, you know, it's like, the thing with laws is laws always change, and not always for the better. Laws conflict with other laws, and the conflicts don't get resolved. Maybe AI will fix some of this stuff, but the way it works right now is just volumes and volumes of more complexity and more laws and loopholes and ways around things. And I think Bitcoin is just opting out of that entire system completely. But I don't think it matters so much. What really matters in terms of law is the Bitcoin Act that is passed, where the U.S. can accumulate in a non-budget neutral way. And who knows? Maybe some of the run up in metals was a way to revalue the holdings in Fort Knox so that they could be sold to buy Bitcoin. I don't know, but again, like, it comes back down to the core of the thing. Like, none of us know, and none of us will know. We're not insiders. We don't have a channel into what's happening at very high levels. So all we can do is protect ourselves and protect our families. And the way to do that is Bitcoin.
I know there are a lot of people that are hung up on, oh, there's a lot of cash that's sitting there that once the Clarity Act is there, it'll be a flood of cash coming into Bitcoin because people are just waiting. Like the institutions, there's not really institutional money in there, but is there that much institutional money actually in Bitcoin yet? So I guess when you zoom out and look at all of it, is that Clarity Act actually holding that up? Or is like, when does this money actually start coming in? Because it's less than $2 trillion asset, right? So we know, therefore, most of the institutional money is not in Bitcoin right now.
It's hard to say. Like, I don't know if institutional money will ever come to Bitcoin, like buying Bitcoin for themselves. It may be that they find exposures through ETFs, which is the simplest channel. But I think some of it will actually go to instruments like STRC, where they're looking for a fiat return and they're risk averse. And once they get accustomed to these types of preferred, like STRC or the other ones from other Bitcoin treasury companies, that is where the money will come in. And it'll be the treasury companies that end up accruing the Bitcoin. So that's how I view it. Like, the path of least resistance is usually the path that is taken. Like, for big institutional players to restructure themselves to hold Bitcoin is not an easy task. But all of these instruments, like IBIT and FBTC and the MSTR and BSTR and everything, they can already be bought by all these institutions and even central banks. Like the Swiss central bank buys stocks. You know, it's not. There is no barrier for them to get Bitcoin exposure, and I think that's probably the most likely way that trillions in capital flood into the market.
What is the thing you think that drives the Bitcoin price the most? Like, is it like ISM, the business cycles? Is it just like sentiment, like you said, in a way? Is it M2, global liquidity, like that? Like, what is the thing that, that Samson looks at when he's kind of like looking for, like, okay, where's society kind of move? Where's the puck going right now?
It's a good question. I don't really think there is any one singular thing. I look at a number of factors, but I think the biggest factor is just people understanding Bitcoin. And that is what's holding them back and holding Bitcoin price here. It's the lack of understanding, but that can change really quickly. It can change on a dime. Again, go back and look at the German mark, the Weimar, the Weimar situation. It's not like slow, gradual thing. Just suddenly one day, someone's going to say, I don't want dollars for the loaf of bread. I want sats. And it's like people discount the fact that Bitcoin being used as money contributes, but it absolutely does contribute. Like people spending money in the developing world, in Latin America, in Africa, using Bitcoin as their daily money, that all contributes to this. The awareness, the understanding, and the adoption curve is all driven by every single thing. And that's not something that's trivial.
There's one thing more important than Bitcoin: the time you have and the people and relationships you build. In a world full of noise, the real signal is meeting with other Bitcoiners IRL, finding Bitcoin-only events, connecting face-to-face, and supporting the circular economy through Bitcoin-friendly merchants around the world. That's exactly what Club Orange is built for. Build your circle. Support Bitcoin-only companies. The only place in the world you can find all that in one spot is the Club Orange app on iOS or Android. Go to cluborange.org, what used to be the Orange Pill app, or scan the code here. Everything you are learning in this episode is completely moot and does not matter if you hold Bitcoin and are still leaving it on an exchange or sharing keys and your KYC information with a third party. This is your wake-up call now. You are only self-sovereign if you alone hold the keys to your wealth. 100% self-custody sounds daunting at first. Believe me, I lost 2 years of massive gains over a decade ago because I was worried about taking the few minutes it took to understand self-custody. And that's exactly why you need to talk to my friends, Tony Yazbek and his team at the Bitcoin Way. We just interviewed Tony recently, has over 80,000 views, an overwhelming response. People love his story and the simplicity he shares of how easy it is to custody and take ownership of the greatest money we've ever seen. They'll train you to do it right the first time. Head on over to thebitcoinway.com/Brandon to schedule a free 30-minute consultation today. Their 5-star rated service is exactly what you need. Quit sitting on your hands like I did and get started today. Again, that's thebitcoinway.com/BRANDON.
So I want to, I'd be remiss to not talk about nation states and, just some of your thoughts there and, again, what you've been working on, stuff like that. But what do you think keeps, like the Putin, the Xi's of the world, these guys, they know what Bitcoin is. They know, they get their treasuries frozen from the US through the SWIFT system. And it's like, they're not dumb people, obviously. So like, what keeps these guys from jumping in? Is it the threat of military, like all this stuff? Like, what is it that keeps these guys, like the adversarial part out there, quote unquote, sitting there and seemingly not doing anything, I guess? Because that to me is like some of the, as the amateur over here, like those are the shoes to drop where you're like, whoa, and people are just blown away, coming back, circling full circle to like some of these really explosive moments that you talked about earlier in a way.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I think for China, it's about capital controls. Like, if the government started buying Bitcoin, it's going to signal something to the people. And you kind of like, you're kind of putting yourself in a very difficult position, because how can you say there's capital controls on you with the RMB, but we're going to buy Bitcoin, which is borderless, right? And I think there might be some degree of that in Russia as well. I'm not an expert on Russia, but I think overall, a lot of people are really wrapped up in their own current situation. It's like on a more microcosm level, your average person is worried about going to work, going home, watching their favorite show on Netflix and, having dinner and whatever, right? Yeah. At the nation state level, they're worried about, that war here, this conflict there, what geopolitical drama. It's almost like you imagine it's a reality show, right? And they're very focused on the parts that they need to play, where they need to show up and who they are talking to. And, they don't have the cognitive space to sit back and evaluate, well, at a very high level from first principles, what should we be doing? If they did have that time to step back, I think they would say, well, we should probably start, mining Bitcoin quietly and buying Bitcoin quietly and printing our currency. And then once we have a critical mass, we'll, open it up to everyone. But I don't think there is that level of strategic thinking, because everyone's worried about the chess pieces laid out on the board in front of them right now. They're not thinking about a different game, the third dimension of the chess level.
What are you seeing, whether it's in Latin America, South America, Africa? I know Daniel Batten was just talking to me, like I mentioned, and he was mentioning Africa and how things are really coming along there. But what do you see when you kind of zoom out, things you are working on? What do you see?
It's almost like nation state level adoption is very similar to ordinary people adoption. Like they're excited when the price is up, but when the price is down, they're not excited. So the meme of the guy lining up to buy at 126 and then I'm not interested at 78, like that is just so real. And I think that frustrates us as Bitcoiners too, just watching this play out again and again and again. Wow. But that is how it's going to be. Like they're going to get excited and they'll be right for some time, but they're not first principles thinkers and buyers, especially not in this regard. Maybe they are in other regards, but they're excited when it's time to be excited, or they're excited when there's some benefit, maybe marketing or something. But, thinking about it, it's just like trying to pick your neighbor and saying you want to orange pill your neighbor. That's kind of like what it is like for us at Jan 3. We go to a meeting and we talk about all these things and like, yeah, that's very cool and very important. But they're really busy with other things like re-election or, some drama, some conflict. And there's always something going on. And there's just no mind space for them to really act on that, right? And especially if you look at government adoption, it's even tighter timelines, because the first year someone comes into power, they're trying to consolidate and organize. You have kind of a 2-year window in the middle. And then the last year, they're either on their way out I think it's good and bad. They're on their way out. They don't care. They might try to implement something, or they don't care anymore, or they're running for re-election and they need to focus on that, right? So
Yeah.
we have a very small window in terms of where we can strike in terms of nation state adoption. You have to find the right person in the right time window that is willing to listen and has the mental bandwidth to actually push for something to happen. But that's our challenge at Jan 3. And we're always working on that. We're pushing 2 Bitcoin bond projects, and we've been in discussions for one of them is getting close to a year now. But these things take a long time. But if it happens, it'll pay off. And then you have a nation state strategy at play, like selling sovereign debt, not preferred shares, to buy Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's just there are so many things. Like we could literally talk for hours on so many of these different Bitcoin things and geopolitical things. So we mentioned 4-year cycle a little bit here and there, but you know that obviously technically broke. But do you think that's a good thing in the sense of like it kind of unlocks people's brains a little bit, the perception of like, hey, we can just have 5 green years in a row or 10 green years in a row? Like, do you think that breaks people a little bit out of their mold?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, definitely for me, like the breaking of the 4-year cycle is great because it shows people like it's not going to happen exactly the same way. But I think a lot of people are scared right now because Bitcoin hasn't moved. But the funny thing about bearishness and these people predicting it's going down is eventually it's going to go back up. So, it'll go down. Maybe it'll go down. Nobody knows for sure, right? If anyone could know for sure, then you can see the future and you're golden. But nobody knows. But if it goes down, it's going to come back up. So why be so depressed and bearish thinking it's going to go down when after it goes down, it's going to come back up? Because it will come back up, right? So it's just pushing past your own emotions and fear to understand that Bitcoin will go up forever, right? Short term, nobody knows. Long term, we all know. Every model is the same. It's all predicting up. And why is that? It's because fiat money demands it. We have this fiat monetary system that demands number go up always. And even the US national debt is closing on 40 trillion. That's like 2 gold market caps there. And is that going to slow down? And people are worried about who's the Fed chair and all that stuff. But it comes down to this. Nothing stops this train. Hat tip Lynn Alden.
Yeah.
Nothing stops the train. Doesn't matter who the Fed chair is. Doesn't matter if he's dovish or hawkish. That number is going to go up. Government spending will go up. It will always keep going until we switch to a Bitcoin standard and spending stops because they cannot print anymore. So that's it. Just be bullish because there's no reason to be bearish. Number will always go up. Bitcoin is not going up now, but everything else is going up. And eventually Bitcoin will catch up and go up.
So we obviously I want you to take 1 minute, and for the people that are newer to Bitcoin, we have a smattering of different people that watch the show, obviously. So for the people that are newer and just learning about Bitcoin, why is it that you are so confident, that it will, because it's like, well, how do you know that that's going to happen, right? Things go up and down. They go up and down over time. So what makes Samson so confident that, hey, we know that we're going to keep printing the currency and therefore this is going to happen to Bitcoin? What makes Samson so confident?
It's probably 2 things. Like one is the fiat system. I'm bearish on the fiat system because it is infinite money printing, unlimited paper money. And that's just not normal. People like to say Bitcoin is an experiment, but fiat money is the experiment. If you go past before the dawn of fiat money, it was always hard money. Just a question of what technology embodied that hard money. We had metallic money. We use beaver pelts, beads, salt, rye stones, everything. It is something hard to replicate because when you can print money, you can steal from people. You're stealing their time, you're stealing their energy. And this is not normal. You're stealing from future generations, not normal. So I'm bearish on unlimited money printing, and I think it's highly unethical too. And we will go back to a hard money standard. Now, when you go to a hard money standard, Bitcoin is the best. And it's up to you to figure out why it's the best. But I'm telling you, I've been thinking about this for a long time. And it is the best. And you just have to find your way there. I can tell you everything, but you know, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. You can tell someone all these things, but until they understand it for themselves, it's not going to click. So you just have to find it out for yourself. But the clues are all there for you to see. There are a lot of people that didn't believe in Bitcoin. Even Saylor didn't believe in Bitcoin at first. But once you understand it, you cannot un-understand it. And I think that's the biggest thing. Now, I guess why else am I bullish on Bitcoin? It's just because if you think about it, Bitcoin really didn't do anything. It's 17 years old now. It just exists. It is a network. It is decentralized. It's people running nodes. It's software. It's math. It's energy. It really didn't do anything. It's us incorporating it into everything, into our lives, into the financial system, into the stock markets, everything like that. It is where it is today because it was needed. It's not that Bitcoin did anything. Satoshi created Bitcoin, released it, and people started running it and using it and transacting it as money, as a hard asset. And that's it. It didn't do anything. It didn't negotiate any deal. It didn't have a trade agreement. It didn't talk to a government to say, you got to use us because, you know, we're whatever. Like, there are altcoins that do that and try to do that, but Bitcoin just existed. And if Bitcoin can just exist and be where it is today, with the place it holds in a lot of the financial world today, just by existing, you have to give it some credibility and acknowledgement that this is something that is profound.
So well said. And in that theme a bit of explaining that to someone that's just learning, there's some FUD. I want to hit some FUD things with you here quick that people might be hearing about as well. Yeah, always FUD, endless FUD. And one of the things is that just came out, obviously, is and which is all over the place, which is this guy. He was, you know, he networked a lot of people around the world, and he had an island somewhere with a bunch of young people on it. So we'll try not to say his name, but that the emails will come out. What are your thoughts just on this? You know, just what's going on with, I guess, just the Bitcoin sector of it. There's so many ways you could go with it, but just the Bitcoin sector and the implications, the MIT and stuff like that. What are your thoughts on everything?
Well, I think we can say his name. Epstein, he was involved with MIT. Like, the guy is a socialite investor networker, super networker. And it shows, like, he talks to everyone and he uses his network to talk to everyone. So it's not like you should be shocked that there are people that talk to the guy, right? He's very busy. He's not down in the nitty gritty. He's trying to fund the DCI, the Digital Currency Initiative, and he's trying to get funding for developers. And he doesn't know exactly everything that's happening or how everything works. So it's not that there are 5 people in control of Bitcoin and, you know, we're going to co-opt it. He's saying what he thinks in a very awkward way. And like, there's like a lot of names out there, but I wouldn't put too much weight into, like, you know, it's the end of the world because all these people talk to him, because so many people talk to him. And that was what he was good at, networking with really influential, wealthy people to network with other wealthy, influential people, sort of like a social credibility, right? So it's easily understood that happens and people don't check.
What is your thought on quantum? Like the energy stuff, obviously, I feel like has gone away over the last 2 years. Like, you don't hear a bunch of energy FUD anymore with Bitcoin because all of a sudden the AI storm has taken over, and now all of a sudden we need tons of energy. It was bad with Bitcoin, but now it's amazing. We need even more with AI. So it just like ripped that off the table of FUDding Bitcoin, which is hilarious and comedic. But now we have this quantum thing that all of a sudden is like taking its place. So I would love your thoughts on, you know, kind of any and all of that right now.
Yeah, again, like, the quantum stuff is just like the energy stuff. It's a nothing burger. There is no quantum computer that can attack Bitcoin. Every quantum circuit now that can do something, it's basically given a cheat code saying, here's the answer. Can you find that answer that we're looking for? And it can, yes, it can find that. But there is no quantum computer that can attack Bitcoin. And it comes up all the time, and I repeat the same thing. Like, Bitcoin can upgrade very quickly when we all agree there's a threat. You know, there's the BIP 110 thing now. I haven't looked at it. That's a lot of contention right there. We're not in agreement, and I don't think we will be in agreement anytime soon. But if there is a clear and present danger to Bitcoin, like a quantum computer exists that can do something, we will all agree that this is the upgrade and we're going to upgrade. But even before that, all we need is a key path spend to spend Bitcoin, even without the proper quantum solution, because that can be bolted on later. But the biggest danger now, I think, you could view the quantum attack as an attack in and of itself, is to pressure everyone to support a rushed solution, which is actually the most dangerous thing. Because if you add quantum resistance cryptography to Bitcoin, that can possibly be attacked by classical computers. So you almost want to fix it closer to the threat than too far in advance, because you might open up Bitcoin to normal attacks today by trying to fix it for the future. So I think you have to first wait till a quantum computer exists and then reevaluate. And as long as we have the key path to spend safely, then we're okay. So all of it is blown out of proportion, much like the energy and every single other thing. And it's really just an opportunity for people. Like, those that know, and you will hold fast because it is FUD. Like, if you're going to sell for that, then just don't hold anything, right? But the biggest danger quantum holds is not to Bitcoin. It is to everything else. And it's not that, like, quantum computing could crack your credit card and your bank account or whatever easily, but that's not the threat. The threat is a foreign actor is going to nuke the financial system of another country, right? And just shut everything off. There's a show on Netflix called 0 Day. You can watch it. It's like hackers taking down the banking system, and it just causes mass chaos because the world can't function without their banking system. So the most likely scenario is some hacking group gets access to a quantum computer, shuts down the banking system in another country, and they have to use Bitcoin because nothing else functions. Wow. So again, it goes back to the point. If you're worried about something, you want Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's a flow chart. It's like this crazy flow chart. It all flow start back to Bitcoin.
Exactly.
It's so simple. Where do you see when you kind of zoom out with the stable coin, and is it going to prolong dollar dominance? And like, where do you see when you kind of zoom out here?
Well, it definitely does help the dollar, right? Because it's the stablecoin issuers, especially Tether, that are buying US treasuries at a time when people are slowing down or even pondering selling treasuries, right? And that's not great for the US. So I think the push for stablecoins is more of a survival move for the traditional system rather than anything that's going to hold out in the long run. That's why you have legislation being tabled for the SBR, for the Bitcoin Act, and I think there's another act that takes Bitcoin as payment for taxes, right? But I think the people that know understand that stablecoins are kind of a holdover that keeps things going until they can, no pun intended, get their act together and get the Bitcoin Act out there, right? And they can accumulate in size. But I think USAT is a very interesting product. Like, it's helping Tether enter the US market, and they will show themselves to be a reliable partner. And when Tether makes money, they're buying Bitcoin and gold, but they're buying Bitcoin in large quantities. So it's almost like everything is good for Bitcoin. So if rates are cut, then people will look to preferreds from Strategy or whatever. If rates aren't cut, then stablecoin issuers that buy Bitcoin like Tether will buy Bitcoin with their profits. So it's kind of like everything is really good for Bitcoin, no matter which way it goes. But stablecoins, I think, most importantly, educate people that you can have a bearer instrument. Stablecoins are not as bearer as Bitcoin because they're a wrapper around fiat. Yeah. But still, you get people into the workflow of how to use these things, scanning a QR code, sending money to anyone in the world, having no intermediary for that other than the trust assumption of the wrapping of that asset. But this is like teaching people how to transact in Bitcoin. And this is kind of core to our philosophy with Aqua, which is attack the stablecoin market in Latin America, let them transact stablecoins on Liquid, get them understanding how to use Liquid, and then getting them from Liquid USDT into Bitcoin and saving in Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is very prominent there and it's labeled as savings account and you have a Bitcoin price at the top. But I think it's an on-ramp for people to get into Bitcoin. And again, like a lot of Bitcoiners hate stablecoins, but they serve a function to people that don't understand Bitcoin. And we cannot ignore that market because they will become Bitcoiners.
What do you say to people that are, because you hear it all the time too. We talked about numerous different FUD topics, but this, here's another one I guess you just made me think of, which is, oh, the stable coins and all these things, Bitcoin, these were just things to get people used to CBDCs and this digital money. Look at the digital passports and look at all this stuff. Like, so what do you say to people? Because this seems to come up a lot, and like, especially from the gold and silver crowds. We talked about, we started with the gold and silver crowd, and they're like, well, you guys and your digital money, they're trapped now because now you're ready for the CBDC and they trained you how to do it.
I mean, paper gold is like the path to CBDC, right? Paper gold to paper gold to to fiat to CBDC. It's all the same path. Bitcoin is the only path that's not CBDC, but at least maybe with Tether Gold, you're transacting these things in the same form factor as Bitcoin. So you're training people how to keep a seed, how to hold something in your own wallet like Aqua, and how to send it to someone without a middleman. So I think that is more of a defense against CBDCs than anything else, because you're training people how to self-custody. And CBDC is the exact opposite of that. Like, it's digital money, but so is Venmo, so is PayPal, so is Alipay. It's all digital money. And except for those ones, you're actually more complacent because it's just an account that someone else holds on your behalf, which is closer to a CBDC than anything else.
Do you think, going back to the Tether thing really quick, I've seen some people just talking about and this spans maybe even outside the crypto Bitcoin world too, just some of the geopolitical stuff, but the Trump administration, they're trying to crush the Fed, and that's why the Tether stuff is happening. They're trying to crush the Fed. That's even the Kevin Warsh stuff. They're trying to diminish the power of the Fed and bring it back into like the US Treasury, so the nation has more power. And then look, they're building up Tether to be kind of like the new Fed in essence, like building on this digital system.
I don't know. I don't really see that, but people have lots of theories. But I don't know. I just don't see them using a stablecoin as a proxy CBDC. Like, stablecoin issuers will freeze funds because of illegal activity. Like, they work with all the law enforcement agencies, so it's not like it is a CBDC in that regard. Like, the whole thing that is a CBDC means the government can say, freeze Brandon's account now because he said something I didn't like. That's not, there's no legal process, no due course, no proper process in place to do that kind of a freeze with a stable coin, right? Like, unless you pass some law, which of course can always be done. But, the fear, like in Canada, was that if there was a Canadian CBDC, the trucker protests would have been, hit much harder because they were freezing accounts, but they had to go to the banks and say, freeze this guy because he's the cousin of this guy who was at the protest, right? Yep. That's the danger, that you miss that middle step. And it's just, Trudeau saying, hey, I don't like Brandon. Just get rid of him. Yep. And that's a power that should not exist. And I don't think that is the case with the stablecoin, even if a stablecoin ends up serving the same function as CBDC, but it's not, because it's not the central bank issuing it, and it's not controlled by the central bank.
Do you have any concerns over just the centralizing, whether it's mining pools, the centralization of the pools, things of that nature? Like, when you look at the whole ecosystem, is there any concerns you have at all in that landscape?
Well, centralization is always bad. So we should push for more mining decentralization. I think things like Stratum V2, Datum are all valuable to advocate for. Yep. But structurally, it's challenging because energy is centralized, and that is why you have mining centralization. So I think the best outcome is, like, we're trying to do some of these things, like creating SPVs where people can invest in a mining operation, own the mining operation, and it is like it's their operation, even though it's managed by someone else. But I think that's the most likely way. Home mining plays a part in it, but it's not going to be the only solution because the hash rate is low. So I think having different SPVs exist in different places around the world with different ownership structures might be the best way to decentralize mining, at least that I can think of right now, in conjunction with like block template generation created by the individual mining operations.
Did somebody, the mining, because someone just, I don't know, so did someone just go down recently, or because there's been a big decrease? And I think that the difficulty adjustment is going to go down a bunch. And do you have any information? Because I have not looked into that at all yet, but do you have any info on that? What's been happening?
I think it's just we're hitting break-even point for some mining operations, so they might be shutting down.
Yeah, just overall incentives. That makes sense. Overall, what your 2026 Samson's market sentiment? I mean, we talked about Elon. Is there anything that you any other final thoughts of 2026, or it could be even the rest of this cycle or whatever? Like you said, I think Elon is one of the big things that you mentioned already this year, like kind of a surprise, I guess, if you will, for this year. But is there anything else that Bitcoiners maybe should focus on this year? Everyone's been down and out, so we're all holding on for dear life, right? Hodling. So things are being overlooked. Anything in that regard?
I think I think my message is just hang in there. Like, we are right, and we will be right, and we just have to be patient and be willing to take the hits when Bitcoin is sideways or down. But we will be right because the facts sit before us very clearly. And when the market understands this, when we recover, I think you'll be regarded as a genius. Like, everyone that holds here or buys here even are going to be very well off in the coming years.
Is there anything else that you want to share about Jan 3, Aqua, Aqua Wallet, what you guys are doing? You'll touch on any of this stuff, just emerging market usage or whatever, maybe infrastructure, but what do you guys have that you're, kind of working on and pushing there right now?
Yeah, so we have a big update for Aqua. We've just ironing out the last few bugs, and hopefully it'll be out this week. But it's a complete design overhaul, like a totally new UI, cleaner, better feedback for swaps, transactions, everything. And we also have multi-wallet now. So when you have a BTC-based server store, you can use the Samrock protocol to connect it to a secondary wallet on your Aqua device that's just for your store. You can create another wallet for your family or other things too, but it's a massive update. That's why it's taking us some time to get it out the door, but I'm very excited that it's coming out. And once that is out, we're going to push forward on more integrations. We have a number of things that are in the pipeline, like lending and really cool stuff.
And again, we should mention Infinite Fleet as well. We mentioned Aladdin as well, Bitcoin trading cards. Also, I just had the UK game they tried to make to like educate people and brainwash people over there. It was like blowing up in their face. So for anyone, Samson's always a massive proponent for any and all Bitcoin education. If you want to touch on Infinite Fleet again, you're welcome to, and just Bitcoin education everywhere, because it's the lifeboat. And when people are ready to jump off the Titanic, we'll be here. So
yeah, not much. Infinite Fleet development is still continuing slowly with a smaller team. Yeah, I love the stuff that Aladdin's doing with BTC cards. You need to make more cool cards and get out there and orange fill the masses at the traditional venues like Comic-Con and everything else.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and that he is building some amazing worlds right now, and the stories and comics and things that he is building. So with the help of you, Samson. So thank you for everything you are doing and providing calm for everybody. Just appreciate. We'll link to everything here. So thank you. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Chat again next time.
If you like that episode, then you're going to love the playlist we put together for you with our most recent podcast with the top Bitcoiners, sound money, liberty advocates in the world. Go check those out here. We'll see you inside. You're going to love them.